Assessor Pam lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Rosales?
Here.
Commissioner Keach?
Here.
Administrator Jones?
Here. Requests for modifications to the agenda.
We did have one. Commissioner Zayas noted yesterday afternoon that we had planned to have a hearing on the SARC Opportunities Fund discussion, and if we were going to make that date, we had to bring the call this week. So we're offering up as a possibility in addition of as item 3D, a notice of hearing to be held March 29th at 10:30 a.m.
Move to amend the agenda.
Second. Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Carries. Public comments. Any member of the public wishing to make comment on agenda items only? Yes, sir. Yeah, come on up, state your name and address. Public comment for agenda items.
Well, is your Carlsberg sewer on the agenda?
Pardon me?
Carlsberg sewer is on the agenda?
Not today. I don't think anything's on for today. That was, so if you want to talk about Carlsberg sewer, you could at the end of the meeting. Okay. Anybody want to make comment on just agenda items? Consent agenda.
Thank you. Item 1A is approval of vouchers for the week of March 7th. Item 1B is approval of minutes for the week of March 7th. And item 1C is approval of payroll for the period ending February 29th.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Reports and presentations. Commissioner Beach.
Had an opportunity to attend a meeting in Forbes last night. It was people interested in steelhead fishing on the Olympic Peninsula. And that issue were the guides very much in favor of a conversation about the regulations that involved the local community. Lots of guides, very well attended. Local guides felt sorry for the one fellow from WDFW. That fellow should have had some support. But all in all, managed quite civilly. I really did appreciate the way it was put together. So it issues the change to a catch and release program, and that will be effective, I think, the end of this year. And the real concern was that this took place at meetings that were literally way, way far away from the Olympic Peninsula. Very few people had a chance to engage, very few people were informed about it. And what would likely occur is an additional meeting. The city of Forks, who sponsored this, is quite interested in looking at a mechanism where the minimum those kind of meetings occur in Forks, so people get a chance to at least listen and understand.
I've got two items to report on this week. On Sunday afternoon, I attended the Clallam Transit's annual employee recognition dinner, which was an excellent event, and they really highlight the transit organization's commitment to safety. And we have one particularly talented Clallam Transit bus driver who will be representing Clallam Transit at the National Bus Rodeo coming up in the next couple of months. So we've got a hometown hero to root for. And a non-official assignment that I have is I'm a board member of the Olympic View Community Foundation, which is based in Sequim, but is looking to reach out to other parts of the county. Last Wednesday, I had the opportunity to go out to Neah Bay and as a member of that organization and visit the museum out in Neah Bay, where I have not been to that museum for 20 years, and I would just highly encourage anyone who has not been there recently to get their butts out there and check it out, because It's really phenomenal, and it was a reminder to me of what a valuable and unusual resource that is. So I would encourage all of you to stop in the next time you're in EMA. Thank you.
Thanks. Jim?
Nothing from me.
Contracts and agreements.
Item 2A is a waiver of bid requirement and consideration of agreement with PacWest Machinery for the purchase of 2 used pneumatic tire compactors. All this was discussed in work session back on March 7th. Total cost $108,725.20 for 2 units. Total for 2 units.
Move to approve the waiver.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 2B is an agreement with Michael and Susan Bonalmo for purchase of easement for the Carlsberg Sewer Project, as was discussed in work session on March 7th. Total cost $500 and a hookup to the sewer.
Move to approve the agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Administration.
Item 3A is a resolution calling for a hearing to be held at 10:30 a.m. on March 29th regarding the proposed amendments to the Comprehensive Park and Recreation Master Plan 2016 to 2026. All as was discussed in work session on March 7th.
Move to approve the resolution.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And item 3B is a notice of hearing to be held at 10:30 a.m. March 29th regarding the request from the Park and Recreation District 1 for natatorium air handling unit, emergency replacement unit at the Swim Aquatic and Recreation Center, as was discussed in work session back in February.
Move to approve the notice of hearing.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Budget.
Item 4A is approval of budget modifications for the week of February 29th.
Move to approve budget modifications for the week of February 29th.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 4B is a notice that the following supplemental appropriations will be adopted by resolution on March 29th. Under Health and Human Services, funding from the Washington State Department of Health for immunization program, new revenue of $1,888. Under Health and Human Services, Environmental Health, grant funding from the Washington State Department of Health for pollution ID and correction, new revenue of $7,815. And grant funding from the Washington State Department of Health for on-site septic system management program, new funding of $68,220. Under Health and Human Services Operations, funding from the Washington State Department of Health for the Women, Infants, and Children program, new funding of $6,850. Under Sheriff's Operations, Operation Stone Garden grant reimbursement, new funding of $2,744. Reimbursement from the Olympic Peninsula Safety Communications Alliance Network operations budget for full-time radio technician position, new funding of $46,500. And finally, under WSU Extension, funding from Solid Waste Division of Health and Human Services for managing a Department of Ecology grant, new funding of $50,603. These are the supplemental appropriations.
Move to approve the notice of the supplemental appropriations.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 4C is a resolution calling for a hearing to be held at 10:30 a.m. March 29th for consideration of the following debatable emergencies. Under Sheriff's Operations, payment to equipment rental and revolving to replace the Sheriff's Office patrol vehicle that was totaled in a 2015 accident, $7,500. Under Sheriff's Jail Medical, to fund the increased cost of inmate medical services in the amount of $6,541. Under Health and Human Services Homelessness Task Force, the 2015 unspent funds of $220,000. And under Olympic Peninsula Safety Communications Alliance Network operations to fund a full-time radio technician position in the amount of $46,500.
Move to approve the resolution calling for a hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. No committee boards, no committee development, no public works. We do have 2 public hearings in 20 minutes, so at this time, is there any member of the public wishing just to make general comment to the board? This would be the time. It's you, Ron, and anybody else, on anything, any topic. Let us have it.
Carl's Sewer was on the agenda.
It was on yesterday's agenda.
You already approved it.
No, $500 easy.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm Ron Richards, I live on Township Line Road. I wanted to congratulate you guys for your change on the inspector's contract, the construction inspector contract for the Cloud Bay Sewer. And I left a message with Trish last week, I hope it got to you guys, about what we did when we built the courthouse. We hired a retired gentleman by the name of Frank Leslie for next to nothing, and he just did an absolutely perfect job, so I would hope you consider soliciting that, for that sort of person to do that contract, should you do it. The other thing I wanted to mention was a letter to the editor that I read the other day that caused me a lot of concern. I've seen different meetings of different agencies where a proponent for a project gets up and speaks for an hour or two with glossy posters and hired lawyers and paid consultants. And it just makes a glamorous presentation of what he proposes. And then the people who might oppose a project are given 3 minutes each. Well, this letter to the editor, I assume it's correct, but it's something that you certainly should look into. In the hearing on that cell tower outside the swim every day, according to the letter to the editor, the proponent got all sorts of time to make a very good presentation for his project. And then each of the people opposing it were just given 3 minutes. And I guess I've mentioned in the past how I appreciate your policy here to let people talk longer than 3 minutes. But I really think that you should take a look at your hearing examiner's procedures to see if maybe the hearing examiner should not have the 3-minute limit for people wanting to talk on something that's very near and dear for them. It's really hard to even begin to put together a coherent presentation in 3 minutes. And if you arbitrarily cut somebody off at the end of 3 minutes, it's really telling that person you don't give a damn about what they're saying, even if he's in the middle of a good thought that's really pertinent to the proceeding. It's, in my opinion, you ought to let them go. So I would encourage you to maybe Friday mornings related to the procedures in this hearing, if that point is true.
Probably was somewhat true. We're going through the hearing examiner, the new contract and taking bids, and so that could be something that we look at as to how each hearing examiner plans for this. Basically, their courtroom, as I understand it, they get to set the rules. So I don't know that the commissioners have. I don't know that we've set any rules for the hearing examiner, but if we have, we'll take a look at them.
No, he's your employee.
He's our employee, but he's judicial, so.
No, that's quasi-judicial. You can set.
Yeah, we can certainly look at, as we go through the proposals, I would say that'd be one question the board could probably ask is how they when they run their hearings. I agree with you. It upsets the public when they're cut off. There's no doubt. We've seen that time and time again. We have never, in my 15+ years, ever had a timer or instituted a 3-minute warning. We have probably, at times, commissioners have maybe cut people off just because they're arguing with themselves for so long, and there comes a point where you can't argue anymore. But we've never had an egg timer up here, or can't see the clock. So.
Well, it's especially unfair when the proponent gets all the time they want.
Yeah.
And even if there's 20 opponents, splitting it up into 23-minute sessions, it just doesn't work.
Right, I agree. And most people will probably, there'll be a few people that'll go 5, 6, 7 minutes. A lot of people just walk up and say, hey, this person spoke for me, I concur. A lot of people don't want to speak for 3 minutes. So you've been here where people will go on and make their point, and then other than the next 5 people just come up and say, I agree with, I agree with what Ron just said, so it ebbs and flows and it all comes out in the wash. So I think we can have Jim take a look at that as the bids come in and ask him that
I think
question.
the appropriate place would be, as Ron suggested, either we create an ordinance imposing rules of behavior we want to see and then incorporate that into the contract, or just simply whoever does get our new bid, as the commissioners expressed an interest, they'd really like it to be one primary person. Talk to them informally, so we can certainly look at either of those cases.
Okay.
Thanks. Good point.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a look at those policies and see if that does limit this. Yeah, so we'll take a look at it. And the one thing you can do is when you meet with the people that bid, and you look at it, just give them a copy of the policy.
Absolutely.
See what it says. Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, gentlemen. Dale Wilson, live in Port Angeles. This is in reference to the impending Carlsberg sewer project. I have not looked at the plans in great detail, but I have noticed some suggested additions that you might want to put into the budget, and that would include a hydrologist to study the effects of possible sewer pipes bursting as they cross the Dungeness River, and give you an idea of what the cost of cleanup would be if we did have that new and expected earthquake that's about 65 years overdue right now. So if we do have a pipe break and dump all that sewage into the Dungeness River, I think we need a hydrologist to report on the possible effects and cleanup costs. Perhaps you might want to consider a paleogeologist in case they run into another mammoth out there in that area, and imagine how long that would hold up the project if there was thought of mammoth or other paleological finds, and an archaeologist in case you find graves out there. Of course, you know there's a history of that when we found the ancient graveyard down here at the graveyard, and that created quite an upheaval in the community. So you might want to consider having somebody on hand to, they might find the bones of somebody that was a murder victim, but they also might find an ancient burial ground, which would create some delay in the project and also create some heavy expense. Also, you might want to consider money for downtime if the project is stopped for any of these occasions. And finally, I'd like to suggest that the county employ an outside project manager for a couple of reasons. Number one, they will have the expertise for such a project as this. They will have errors and omissions insurance to cover any problems. And the other thing is, if there are problems that occur and we are managing it in-house, then if we uncover an error of design or something, they might want to cover each other's behinds, and you may not get all the information back that you need. So if we have an outside project manager, not only will they have the expertise to cover a project of this size, but they'll also have errors and omissions insurance, which would put any cost overruns or any problems on the backs of the contractor and the project manager. And any other way that you do that is going to put any errors and omissions and additional cost overruns on the back of the taxpayers. And I think we all want to avoid that. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to make general comment before the board? If not, we have about 10 minutes before the public hearing, so if there's no objection, we'll take a recess for 10 minutes. Come back, we have two public hearings. One is declaring vehicles in the sheriff's office as surplus, and another is a proposed amendments to the Clallam County Code, Chapter 23.03. So a 10-minute recess, no objection. We'll come back into session. We have two public hearings. The first is a consideration of a resolution declaring vehicles in the sheriff's office as surplus and ordering their sale at public auction. So a representative of the sheriff's office is here. Alice, do you have anything?
To add, no?
No? That's it? That's your staff report? We actually work session this already, so. Are there any questions of Alice before we open the public hearing? No objection, we'll open the public hearing. There's nobody signed up. Is there any member of the public wishing to make comment regarding declaring the vehicles in the sheriff's office as surplus and ordering their sale at a public auction? Seeing no one rushing to the microphone, it's the board's wishes.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Just for the record, let's enter the vehicles in question. 1990 Toyota pickup, 2000 Ford Expedition, and a 1977 Chevrolet ambulance to be declared surplus and sold at public auction. I suspect the 77 Chevrolet ambulance will be a hot item. So it's moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the sheriff's office to dispose of surplus vehicles by sale at public auction.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Minimum bid will be $500. I certainly hope you get a $500 bid for the ambulance. Maybe the other two certainly would be good. It's moved and seconded to accept the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Just curious, how did the sheriff's office come in contact with a 1977 ambulance?
I do not know when that thing came into our possession. It was first used for search and rescue. It's been sitting up at the shop for a very, very long time.
So somebody wants it for $500. Next, we have a public hearing on the consideration of proposed amendments to Clallam County Code, Chapter 23.03, General Park and Fairgrounds Rules and Regulations. And we did work session this a couple weeks ago, Bruce, but do you have anything else you want to add before we open the public hearing?
I have a brief staff report.
Oh, just assume Bruce would do it, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
We got lots going on, so we're giving out responsibilities right now.
Joel, do you have a?
I do, actually. Thank you. Just a brief one. The purpose of the proposed ordinance revision is to update several areas of the Clallam County Code, Chapter 2303, which pertain to specifically our Parks and Recreation Master Plan and Fairgrounds Master Plan. And it addresses issues that have to date, and one of the main things it does addresses a couple of issues that have been rather vague. We want to clarify those a little bit. And both of these are vetted through the Park and Fair Advisory Boards. First is under Section 1, subsection 020, under definitions. We're adding Thompson Road and Eagle Point properties, as those are recent acquisitions. And we're going to remove under H, Jesse Cook Scriven County Park, which is under the purview of the Road Department. Section 2, subsection 040, under camping, we're going to add occupancy of a campsite for overnight camping or temporary purposes, i.e. electric vehicle charging, picnicking, or resting shall require the visitor to pay an appropriate camping fee. The issue there was we had people pulling into camping spots and they weren't paid for it. People were coming to rent those spots, and there were issues trying to find people to get their vehicles out. Next would be to, under number 5, remove the first sentence in its entirety and add to sentence number 8, see below for exceptions, and then we're adding under B, Thompson Road and Eagle Point, and under H, remove Jesse Cook Scriven for consistency. Section 3070, dogs, cats, and other pets and livestock. We're going to revise that heading to read generally animals, or quote animals, to clean that up a little bit. Under number 3, we're going to add on all parklands with the exception of designated areas within Robin Hill Farm County Park and Clallam County Fairgrounds. Under number 6, we're going to add in its entirety, no person shall intentionally feed, attract, or artificially sustain wildlife in Clallam County parklands. The feeding of indigenous wildlife is prohibited in all Clallam County parklands unless otherwise posted. Under section 4, I'm hitting the highlights. There are other minor changes in this, but under section 4, we're going to add under E, horses shall be led with the use of a halter from the horse barns to the arenas. Horses and horseback riding are not permitted in any other area of the fairground. We're going to remove under number 2, riders shall ride their horse at a walking gait only, and add to number 2, while on county approved horse trails, riders shall slow their horses to a walk upon meeting other trail users. No galloping, racing, or jumping allowed on these same trails. And also under number 2, at the fairgrounds, riders shall ride the horses at a speed and safety level appropriate for events taking place inside the arenas. Outside the arenas, riders shall maintain a walking gait at all times. And this is, obviously, these are safety-related issues from a couple of incidents. Section 5, just minor things there, the addition of Thompson Road for metal detection, and finally under Section 6, subsection 140. Going to add under number 3, planting any vegetation in parklands without prior approval of the department is prohibited and subject to immediate removal by the department. The only other modifications, as I stated earlier, were those in the ordinance were pertaining to formatting and numbering and word changes and that sort of thing, so they were fairly minor. We did earlier receive one comment, and did you give them a copy of that? We received one comment pertaining to one of the revisions that we suggested under section 4. And Bruce has a copy of that for each of you and our proposed revised wording. And the comment reads as follows. The ordinance on the park rules has some problems with section 4, subsection 120 under E. Horses are led with a bridle, not a halter, while showing at the fairgrounds between classes. A halter, and his comment is, a halter would be on from the horse that's unsaddled or in a halter class. The easiest way to fix that would be to add the word or bridle after halter. The other issue is that the ordinance would eliminate the pony ride because animals are moved through prohibited areas and the ride itself is in a non-horse permitted area. So our proposed revision to our earlier proposed revision would state horseback riding is permitted at the fairgrounds only in warm-up arena, horse show arena, grandstand arena, the road between the horse show and grandstand arenas, and the arena between the warm-up and horse show arenas. Horses shall be led with the use of a halter or bridle from the horse barns to the arenas. Horses and horseback riding are not permitted in any other areas of the fairgrounds unless authorized in advance by the fair manager or the director. And in summary, we would recommend that the board approve the proposed modifications, which includes Mr. Tate's comment to the Clown County Code, Chapter 2303, barring any revisions that might come up as a result of this hearing. Thank you.
Any questions for Joel or Bruce? There's no questions, there's no objection, we'll open the public hearing. Everybody has signed up to testify. Is there any member of the public wishing to make comment regarding this public hearing and this ordinance change? Yep, Ed, come on up.
I didn't see your list over there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ed Bowman, Peter Boxell, McClellan Bay. Regarding this ordinance, when I was following this through its process, I understood it was about planting stuff in the park and also the wildlife. But then, now seeing this product, I see a lot of loose ends. And it actually brings the question, why aren't we even actually making some changes to other parts of the ordinance? So that's what I wanted to go over today. I am pleased to see that Eagle Point property is included in the ordinance. That's pretty quick updating of the ordinance. I do have a concern with section 2, section .040 camping. In regards to the change under super slipper subsection 4, occupancy of campsite. I understand his explanation, but you know, what's going to be the definition here of resting? Is somebody going to pull into that spot and they didn't pay a fee and 10 minutes later they get nailed for a violation of the ordinance? This creates a real interesting dilemma on the citizens' use of the county parks, especially using that term resting. I can understand vehicle charging and picnicking because those are a little bit longer term, but resting, I mean, I myself use Pillar Point for resting in a sense, driving all the way in. It's a nice break just to stop there and get out and catch your breath. So I think this creates a very ambiguous use of that term resting, and I object to that. With that though said, moving over, I would ask that under the Pillar Point County Park, under page 3 there, where it's prohibited overnight camping, you know, we really need to address Pillar Point because it is a developed campsite, and it hasn't been that way for a while, and we've had some problems there with other entities utilizing that facility. I've talked to the parks folks about this, and we need to get Pillar Point back into play, and I think that needs to be addressed. I think this should be updated and off-season special use permit. I don't know what a member of the public's going to understand that to mean. Moving over to page 4, no person shall intentionally feed or track, number 6 there under 3. So this brings up another interesting dilemma about the young child that accidentally throws some breadcrumbs out there on the ground. And I know we look at that as trivial, but I see this happen all the time with passing regulations prohibiting. And a grand example is a very young child that decided to surf cast off of the beach there between Clallam Bay and CQ and managed to wheel in a 25-pound king through the kelp bed. Got him on shore, and Fish and Wildlife shows up and nails the young man. They used reason, they released the fish and got it. But I see this all the time with young children. They don't know the regulation. And what are we going to get into here, putting these prohibitions in place, somebody throwing out breadcrumbs or something? And it just creates that aura of, wow, what is reasonable, okay? And lastly but not least is on page 5 there. Let's see. Oh, under section 5, section 121, and the coinage thing. This is really interesting. Why isn't Eagle Point included in a list to obtain a permit to do coinage? I'm kind of curious why that didn't get included in that list. So those are my comments, and thank you.
Any questions? Anybody else wishing to make comment for the board? Have any comments, Joel?
I do. First one pertaining to the resting, the word resting at Salt Creek. And Mr. Bowen used Pillow Point as an example. First off, Salt Creek is a campground. The sites we're specifically talking about are paid camping, RV, or tent sites. We have acres and acres of day-use parking at Salt Creek, so I don't really see that as an issue there. Pillow Point, on the other hand, is a day-use facility, with the exception of, as he spoke about, off-season camping, which we do have, and which several county residents use during the off-season. The other thing is that as of about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, our park managers can no longer issue citations. We can't ticket anybody. What we have to do if we have an issue is contact the sheriff's department, and they are the ones that arrive on site and do that. Typically, an instance like this would not require us to call the sheriff's department. So our park manager is very, very good at communicating and working with people. And these kind of issues are, with a rare exception, they're worked out right there on site. But as I stated, it's important to us that if someone has reserved a site, is coming to the site expecting it to be open, they don't need to come up and see that someone's charging their electric car and they've gone on a hike up Striped Peak, which occurs. So, and that's a whole other issue that we have to deal with, and trying to keep people, give them what they expected when they got there. I mentioned Pillow Point off-season camping. The feeding, we've had issues with folks, and I understand about Mr. Bowen's concern about children feeding, the breadcrumbs and that sort of thing. We understand that happens. Our issue was with people specifically bringing bags of peanuts. We have people that bring seeds into the parks and they scatter them for the wildlife. Well, we get noxious weeds from the seeds and the wildflowers. The feeding of squirrels, in particular at Robin Hill, was where the issue originated. It causes a lot of difficulties with park users by attracting different types of wildlife, and that was specifically what the reason was for. I know people go, for example, to Dungeness Landing, and they'll bring a loaf of bread with them and throw it to the seagulls. I mean, we're not going to stop all that. We're not trying to. What we don't want people doing is bringing the things that are invasive into the parklands. That's the specific thing. And as far as enforcing that regulation, we don't have, at our day-use facilities, we don't have someone there that's going to be ticketing or citing somebody for feeding. And with regards to including Eagle Point on the metal detection, I guess it could be included. Our thought, I think, was that we just, given the nature of that site, the location of that site, didn't feel, I mean, it certainly can be done, but I don't see the reason for it. There's no, I don't know, maybe you have a better reason for including it or not including it. I just,
No, there has been no past use. I don't know what that anybody would find anything at that site.
yeah. I mean, if that was something that you felt should be included, I mean, we can't speak directly as to it shouldn't occur, but we didn't even see a reason why it should.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Board's wishes.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to Clallam County Code 23.03.
Second, that also includes the comment with regard to horseback, section E.
And that was my intent. So let me revise my motion perhaps. I'd like to move to approve the proposed amendments, including revision. Let's see. What section is this? Horseback riding. Section 120, 1E.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? The only one I'd make a comment is I think it's pretty traditional. If you're a parent, you're in a park, and a deer or a raccoon or a squirrel walks by and you have your kid throw a tiny little piece of the sandwich you might be eating. I certainly hope the intent of the rule is to not to avoid that. I think that's something that every parent shares a special moment in sharing with their kids, their love of wildlife and the outdoors, and I don't think the errant corner of a sandwich from a 2-year-old to a deer or a raccoon or a squirrel is probably going to lead to overpopulation. So I hope that you mostly focus on maybe spreading of food, large amounts, but if one of your rangers sees a kid throwing part of their potato chips or lunch, we all know we're not supposed to do it. There's signs in every park, but honestly, show me a parent that hasn't experienced that moment with their kid. And I'll probably show you a parent that never took their kid to the outer doors. So that's my comment on that. I don't want to see the county somehow regulate that moment. Because that was a special moment that I shared with my kids. Certainly understood the rules. You don't want that. Good grief when your 2-year-old says, "Dad, can I throw my little piece of sandwich at the raccoon?" My dad's going to say no. No, you can't. Rules say.
That was never the intent. This was specifically to address one major issue we have with people actually literally bringing bags and stuff.
And that's a whole other ball of wax. So, truth be told, I probably still do it myself every now and then. So, it's moved and seconded. Any further comments, questions?
My thanks to the committee that worked on this.
That's all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Good point was raised, I think, for Commissioner Peach and you guys, Pillar Point, Jewel, Jim, that was somewhat underutilized because of the lack of services, and I know that's been an issue for many, many years, but if the District 3 Commissioner someday wants to take that project on, I think the county would be well served to just figure out a way to utilize that park in a better area, in a better way.
But the water system was the main reason for it being taken out of service.
But there's
Kind
got
of
to
the lack of the fishing, because it's in the good old days, when fishing was just boom around here, that place was packed and used. It was just crazy. We had a seasonal worker that would come out there and work, so a lot of things have changed since then, as you obviously know, but
someday it'd be worth it though. I mean, a water system can be repaired and replaced. Just takes money and permitting, but I think there's a lot of people nowadays who would love to camp there, still launch their boats, still use that water access, and would camp overnight. It's, to me, it's just been kind of underutilized for years, but it's not my district.
Great place for crowd.
Oh, yeah, I got that myself.
I think Ed raises a good point. That should probably be looked at again. What could we do to, because that's just a phenomenal location. Every time I drive in there, there's nobody there. That's, it's like, so, food for thought. That's up to Bill if he wants to work with you guys. Any other public comment? Ed?
My money's worth. I would have come at the beginning, but it ended.
Well, if you're like a lawyer, you get paid by the words.
Ed Bowen, P.O. Box 111. So on the 7th of March, you held a work session regarding the Veterans Relief Fund ordinance. So I've studied that a little bit, and there are a few reservations I have about this. I need to go back a little bit. There's only one commissioner still on the board that addressed the ordinance about changing it over a while back, and I had reservations then because the Veterans Relief Fund itself is controlled by the RCW, and I brought up to that at that point the fact that the organization outside the county that manages this needs to be bonded, and that was never addressed during that process. So I put that back on the record today. As we move forward and we give more oversight and all to that organization, I do believe the intent of the RCW needs to be upheld, and at least to address this accountability issue, they should be bonded. I've been a little bit embarrassed by the process so far, even with this ordinance change, that I still don't believe we have a veteran at large or a veterans representative at large on that board, on that committee, because the committee's not transparent on the county's website. It's a standalone function. The records are not online like any other committee with the county, so I have reservations there. And there are some particular aspects within the ordinance change that I'm going to have some concerns with. And one is particularly the right and the ability and the method that a veteran who applies for the Veterans Relief Fund appeals a no decision. I think there's some significant flaws in this ordinance change proposal that I'm going to be looking into very closely, because I think it sets veterans up for lack of due process, I would call it. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to make a comment? Seeing no one, no executive session. Board sits as the Board of Health, with the Board of Health this afternoon at 1:30. So if there's nothing else before the board, we'll end the meeting at 1:30 on the Board of Health. 1 o'clock, 2 or more commissioners will be on the KOMP radio show, and we'll continue this week. This week's meeting to next Monday morning at 9 a.m. if there's no objection. So ordered. Thanks.